now to have a look at the Port Washington station as I see it. Well, first of all, if you have a station on a slight rise like this, you wouldn't raise the platforms if you're going to do that. You would lower the tracks, and then the boarding would be level with the concourse, which is between the station and the platforms. And a few other things like the skewed concourse shed there. It's 2 degrees off. I mean, the whole town has this grid, 8.3. It ends in 8.3, I think, and so the grid must be 10.3. I mean, the shed there. I don't know what they were thinking there, but it's the usual kind of sociopathic stuff. Anyway, something interesting about this station is I think the original lead tracks were kept, and you have to be able to see it. Here's the center line of the station tracks. You see, it's off center versus the station, and then the 2 lead tracks are off to the side here. There's only 1 track on the other side of it. And that's because the way they built these stations is that allows plenty of room for the single station track to come in from the west and merge with the lead tracks, and the 3 to come in from the east and merge at a different point. So this station has, I think, 3 regular switches, 1, 2, 3, and 2 double slip switches. That's the way a double slip switch looks. Inside double slip switch with a 5-degree crossing angle. It's sort of a generic idea. They generally do them, well, with slightly different angles, but they're all around 5 degrees. You wouldn't need half of this slip switch here. You could have a long crossover like that and do away with half of that slip switch. But for the elevator, which would hold 4 additional 12-car trains, which ends there. So you wouldn't want to have the crossover running through that. Well, you could have it anyway, but I don't think so. Now, the interesting thing about locating this, see, it's a very rough design. Like, it took a couple of days to get these curves positioned, even as inadequately as they are, because you see, this is only about 10 feet wide here. It would preferably be wider and be uniform with the outside platform, which after all is narrower to begin with. But also, you know, I made the central platforms, the 2 central platforms are 22.5, and the outside ones are 15, but you could probably have them 20 for the central ones and 12.5 for the outside ones. The outside platforms are a convenience for getting on and off the train, even with some kind of security perimeter with long gates that could be closed. I mean, there's quite a bit to it, but anyway, for the elevator, you might want to have a shed over the elevator to protect the cars from the elements and to prevent too much water from going down into the elevator pit. So that ties in, I think, with this lunette window on the front of the station, which is a very old station, and of course they were making efforts then to attract passengers with striking architecture and so on, like the Jamaica station today. Boy, I'll bet that guy never works for the Port Authority or MTA again, because that's about the most iconic, the best station of the past 75 years in the United States. It's well done. Of course, they skimped on elevators a little bit, but always probably with the excuse of increased security. But there's the lunette window, you see, and if you wanted to have a shed over the storage track elevator, it's all one elevator. You would have part of the mechanism sticking into the platform at intervals. They sell these elevators on Alibaba. I mean, of course, it'd probably have to be something more substantial than that, but I mean, they have them for long trains. You elevate as long a train as you want. But this would be different. This would be if you had 2 levels on the elevator. Why, that gives you 14 12-car trains stored at Port Washington. I don't know how you could want any more than that, but it stays reasonably within the footprint that exists now. So if you have a shed over these connected to the platform sheds, or not, connected hard, but connected, and you'd have a couple of benches here in the concourse area where you could watch people coming out of the station, and the top of the shed would end up right about even with the top of the station, with its imitative lunette window on a giant scale compared to that of the station. And the red center line of the station tracks now lined up with the new center line of the lunette window. So at this point, the giant lunette window would be visible from the concourse and from the sides of the concourse, viewed from either parking lot. Then, if you raise the next level of 4 12-car trains, that would put the lunette optimistically 14.5 feet or 15 feet higher, and you'd be able to see it from across the street, lined up over the existing lunette window, sort of an homage to same. And finally, raising the bottom level of 12 or 4 12-car trains. Hopefully, it could be made so that the shed roof would then collapse in relation to the elevator and stay actually stationary, so that it wouldn't tower over the station in a gangly way, but just stay right at the optimum honorific height. That's my theory about the platform or the train shed for the elevator. And to clarify that, the edges of this elevator train shed would overlap the V-shaped so-called balloon sheds of the central platforms, and the water from the train shed would drain into the customary central column drainage of the slightly V-shaped, well, they're not T-shaped, but not V-shaped either, but you get the idea. The water runs to the center and then down the supports. So, and another clarification is this yellow line here. That represents the very limit of the extent of possible elevator there, and that would accommodate 13 car trains with 50 feet left over, but I've made these platforms 1,050 feet, which is ample for a 12-car train, and the elevator would more likely be more or less the length of the platforms, keeping the vertical elements, which have the mechanism of the elevator at the edges of the two central platforms. Also, since elevators are dangerous, you would have to have platform barriers, at least on the inside edges of the two central platforms, and preferably they could be full height barriers of glass. You have to have the place for the elevator mechanism, which could probably provide some lateral support to the barriers. Then you have to have the doors for M series type cars, and they all have to be arranged together. Also, the central columns or supports of the balloon sheds for the central platforms. So it's not exactly a conundrum, but it would be interesting to find out exactly what kind of spans are required so that the whole thing can be coordinated into a workable design. Now, in addition to the two platform barriers, I think you'd want a security perimeter, and I envision that as running along the outside platforms on both sides up to the corner of the near corners or near corners of the station building. And I think with a curve here, something could be designed. I see it for some reason as black metal poles held together with horizontal members, quite sturdy and tall enough so that if you tried to climb up it or ran into it with a car, it would get caught on a security camera. And of course, there would need to be entrances. I think along the 1,000-foot platforms, 3 broad entrance ways would be sufficient. It might take up less, it would take up more space than this here needed to accommodate the bridge. But of course you can't have a bridge with the elevator shed moving up and down. So I think you would have 3 openings on each side with sliding gates, maybe motorized. Maybe some kind of curved gate could be employed here if it could slide into a part of a uniform curve. That would work. So there's no bridge. Now we have to discuss that problem. And remember, as I said, there's this way this train station was intended to be built first. I think they redid it in the 90s, but it sort of steps out. You see the close single track comes up and merges, and then the three tracks are brought in at a different point, and that's the way the trackage puts one foot in front of another that way. But you see, that's not what they've done here. They have, first of all, these layup tracks which don't go all the way to the top of the station, the head house, or whatever you want to call it, but they can accommodate 12-car trains, or at least this one can. And I think the reason they designed, they did exactly the opposite of what the customary way to do it would be. They moved the closed track, they extended it, and then you can see here there's a sharp reverse curve in these three tracks, and maybe 100 feet between the two curves, and then they're all scrunched down abruptly to get into the lead tracks. So that's different, and I think that was done to make more room for this layup track on the outside here, which comes up right about to there, I guess. But these are all layup tracks. That thing would have to go. I don't know, what is it? Is it some electric thing, or is it just some separate offices? I don't know, but if you want to have station tracks there, that certainly can't be there. So now we're getting to the point where we have to make lemonade out of this incursion on the property of this stilted building here. I don't mean stilted in an offensive way, you understand. It's got parking under it, and with the entire tracks moved over, this is better than 5 feet, this distance, to move it to the lunette window, to line the whole thing up with that, and then taking say 2.5 feet and 2.5 feet off of these two platforms, that would be another 5 feet. So it would be at least 10 feet farther to the west here in this corner of the parking lot, but the end of the platforms would be the same distance as they are from the station house, just that maybe the outside one would be the same size and the inside one would be broader, but it would stick out, not quite so far into the parking lot. And the solution here is to open up a through path between the two parking lots and allow both I guess it's for the purpose of the train, but you see, if you want to walk from your car around to the other side of the station, that's like half a mile. So this would make a really neat arrangement for not only getting to one platform, but you have to be able to get to all of them, so that you have access to the platforms, all of them, from the concourse by the station house. Then you have the 6 openings secured by double sliding gates along the outside platforms. Then here, through a series of ramps and a bridge out here, access to all platforms from the south end of the station. And the way this would work is to have a bridge here, it has to be quite high in order to get over the trains. So a tunnel is better, and you only need probably 120 feet to have an ADA ramp down to the tunnel. So this ramp would start here and run along, just protruding a bit from the platform with its roof, which would be sticking through the poles of the outside perimeter, so as not to get too much water into the lower level. Then a tunnel that goes over here, short tunnel, and the elevator on the central platform here, plus a stair. So that way you get the whole thing done with 2 elevators. Likewise, this other side of it. Because you can't have a tunnel running under the train elevator, 4-track elevator, you would need to have a bridge down here. And if you have it at the middle of the parking lot, more or less, you can achieve the needed height with just a short switchback, starting in that direction and coming up to the bridge. You could have welcoming landing and split stairs into the parking lot, and a way to close it off so that at the bridge is where the security perimeter begins, not on the ramp. And then this would be only an enclosed ramp leading back down to the platform on the west, seamless with that security perimeter. So, among other things, that would serve to put this parking lot on the map, so to speak, because it's rather unused now, since there's no access to any platforms from it currently, and it's about a half a mile to walk around to the other side of the station. So that one would be fully utilized, but of course with Uber and Lyft now, there are all kinds of ways to, including walking, to achieve the first mile or mile and a half or 2, and nobody wants multi-level parking in Port Washington. I'm pretty sure of that, and it's easy to understand why. And we want to avoid that, so you know, there has to be some priorities set for having a space so you can park at the train station. I would think to encourage use of Uber and Lyft and pooling also, which probably keeps the expenses about to what it would be if you drove yourself. Now there's just one more thing with this station, which I noticed just a little bit ago. In this part where it gets scrunched down here, the tolerances were so close that they exceeded the standard tolerances for getting this 10th car. There are 10 12 car, there are 2 10-car tracks, and 6 for 12 at the existing station, and the platform tracks hold 10-car trains. But this one, under normal circumstances, and in keeping with the rules, would only hold 9 cars. See, here you have a reverse curve of just 60 feet, which runs onto the well, that's about the wheelbase of one of these trains. So you have the wheel trucks turning in opposite directions, but it's at the end of the platform, so it doesn't matter. You're proceeding from a full stop. But the other thing they did, I assume, in order to squeeze in the eastern layup track, is they put these two tracks less than 12 feet apart. Right here. That's an amazing thing. I mean, that's a real no-no. Every set of standards from, for 100 years prohibits that anywhere, not just in terminal track. So they really, I don't know how they got that approved. I suppose the FAA had to approve it, or FRA, excuse me. Maybe you could have a flying track there, but it's clear they don't